Everybody, what's up? It's Liv. Today I have a new video for you in honor of it finally being Nutcracker week. We go into the theater tomorrow. I'm going to show you what goes into pairing my pointe shoes to go on stage. So today I'm going to show you how my pointe shoes go from this to this. These are very old, but you get the point. But see what I did there? For me, I have gone through a lot of different types of pointe shoes. I started off with Block, then I tried Suffolks for a little while, then I went to Freed of London, loved them, then I went to Gaynor Minden, and then now I went back to Freed's, and now I'm all the way back to Block. Miley Cyrus said you'll always find your way back home, and she was not kidding. I wear Block Heritage Strong pointe shoes for XX. I have very small feet. And these shoes, they've really worked for me because my old shoes used to only last me a couple hours, honestly. So that was dreadful, and very expensive. These shoes now last me at the very least a month, if not longer, especially because I alternate between 2 or 3 pairs of shoes at a time. When it gets like really busy, like rehearsals right now, it's a little bit shorter. I'd say like 3 weeks, maybe 2. It depends on how much I'm dancing, but they last a lot longer than my old shoes, which used to maybe last me a class, which was insane. So I was dancing on dead shoes a lot, and that's honestly kind of painful and a little bit dangerous sometimes. So these shoes are definitely amazing. I love them. I'm obsessed. So here I have all of my supplies. I have my brand new pointe shoes. I have 2 sets of elastic, one to go around my ankle and one to go around the top of my foot. I have a set of ribbons. I have some yarn. I have sewing needles and such in here. I have a lighter, and then I have a pen. There's not really a designated left and right foot in pointe shoes. This is also the same with ballet shoes. For me, I usually just kind of eyeball it. A lot of people try them on. Some people just, they kind of figure out after one class. For me, I just eyeball it because these shoes are pretty much the exact same. So I'm just gonna label them left and right. And then if they feel horrible, I'll relabel them, but they pretty much feel the same. I do this every time. And then I also have started doing this thing where I write the date that I start wearing the shoes. Because tomorrow is when we start, I'm gonna write December, 14th, I think? Because I'm gonna start wearing them tomorrow. So December 14th. And then on the bottom, I'm gonna write left foot, just an L. And then I'm gonna write my initials, just because you never know, they could get lost. And then I'm gonna write R, O, J, R, my initials. And then I'm gonna put a little heart on them. I put different symbols on all of my pointe shoes because I don't really put them together like they came like this, but sometimes I can kill your shoes faster, so I just kind of leave them out, and then so there's a cluster of pointe shoes just sitting in my bag. So I write little symbols on the bottom of them like this so that I don't get confused which shoe goes with which. I have a lot of different kind of modifications that I make for my shoes, so I'm going to show you right now. I sew one elastic attached at the back, and then it goes around the front of my ankle. And then I sew 2 ribbons kind of in the middle of the shoe because it helps like pull out the bag, and I feel like it supports me the best. I also darn my shoes. This darning job is a little bit messy. I had to cut it off because it started falling off. Sometimes I cut the satin. I also do this at the front because I have a really high instep, so sometimes the top of my foot will like pop out of the pointe shoe if the shank isn't bending enough, and it can be really uncomfortable and it doesn't look the best. So I do this to support that. And then I also sew here, like the knuckles on my feet, they pop out as well. That's why I have this and this, because it just helps make sure that my foot is actually in the pointe shoe, and when I'm on pointe, that it's a nice line, not with like knuckles popping. It's weird, but you know what I mean. And then after a couple weeks, I might jet glue my shoes. I don't always do this, but for this pair I did. So I also just wear ouch pouches. Yeah, so I'm gonna show you the process of sewing my shoe and then also making some modifications for stage. Now we're gonna start sewing. So let me get my needle out. here's my needle. I like to take a pretty big piece of thread so that I don't have to keep rethreading the needle. So this is probably gonna last me to sew all of my elastics. So let's get into that. For me, it usually takes me 45-ish minutes to sew my shoes. That's if I darn. If I don't darn my shoes, 25 minutes, half an hour tops. So today I'm gonna darn my shoes just a little bit, I think halfway. But anyway, so I'm gonna start sewing my elastics. So for me, I sew my elastics on the outside of the shoes. These ones are a little bit frayed, but for stage, the ones that I'm sewing won't be. So I just sew in a little rectangle right by the back. So I'm gonna start doing that, and then I will see you after. Okay, so here's elastics down on one of my shoes. So I sewed on the outside, and then this one. So now I gotta do this shoe. Okay, hi everybody. My lighting has changed significantly because it is fall/winter and it gets dark at 4 p.m. Anyways, so I finished sewing both elastics and also my ribbons onto both shoes. And now I'm trying to decide if I want to darn them because sometimes I darn my shoes, sometimes I don't. For these ones, I'm going to very lightly darn them, but not on this part, only on the sides and like the top of the shoe. So I'm gonna do it very lightly and see how I like it when I'm gonna kind of break them in tonight, do some like roll throughs and stuff, and just see how it feels. For thick darning, I usually get a lot of yarn. They're super great. Okay, there. So now they're both through, and then I tie these 4 strands together, and then we're ready to go. That's why I use so much, because I doubled it up twice, so it's really not that much glued on there. So all right, so I just get that on there first. Go on this part right here. Now I'm gonna just go a little bit away, and then what I like to do personally is I like to pull this loop. It's like this, and then I put this string through the bottom, pull it through. So I do this same little stitch with the string going through the loop just to make sure that it's all secure. I do it from the right to the left, and then the left to the right, and then usually the right to the left one more time just across the top of the shoe to use up all of the string. This is the darning all finished. So it's a little bit thinner, and once I actually start breaking in the shoes, it'll actually flatten out a bit so that my platform is completely flat. Now I'm just gonna do the other shoe really quick, and then I will show you how I pancake them for our shows. Now that my shoes are all sewn and ready, I'm gonna do something called pancaking your shoes. So the satin is really, really shiny, right? Sometimes that doesn't look the best on stage. So I just take some light powder and I'm gonna put it on my shoes so that they are not so shiny. So I put a little bit of water on the powder. I'm just going to put the powder onto the pointe shoe. It's like kind of a process. So here, I'm gonna do one shoe, and then I will come back and show you the difference between the 2 shoes. So I don't know if it's gonna show up on camera, but this shoe is done and this shoe isn't. Oh, it shows up quite well. Okay, so you see the difference between the 2 shoes. This one is very shiny and it will reflect light. This one is just a little bit duller, so it doesn't reflect the light, so it doesn't get distracting. Hey, don't get upset at me because I'm sensitive, but I did in fact forget to film an outro. But anyways, here are the famous shoes. These lasted me the entire 6 shows plus rehearsals of Nutcracker. I had an extra pair, but these ones, my trusty dusty stage shoes. So here they are. They're a lot decrepit. It's fine. It's now January, so this video is a little late in terms of it being for Nutcracker specifically, but that's okay. I hope you still enjoyed, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!